Picture this, a team that was struggling to keep their head above water in the Premier League just over a year ago is now in the top 4, competing for a spot in Europe. It sounds like something out of a wizarding world, right? But for Newcastle United, it's just another day on the pitch. As a sports fan, you know anything can happen in football. It's a game of skill, strategy, and a little bit of luck. But seeing a team rise from the bottom to the top in record time is nothing short of miraculous. And that's exactly what Newcastle United has done. But here's the catch. If they slip out of the top 4, they'll be playing in the Europa League. Now, some might say that's not a place for the big boys, but for Newcastle, it's a dream come true. So, what's the secret behind their newfound success? Is it magic? Or is it just good old-fashioned football? One thing's for sure, you won't want to miss seeing the Magpies take on the big teams in England and win convincingly. Grab some popcorn, settle in, and let's see how this underdog story unfolds. Who knows, maybe we'll witness some more Premier League magic. Newcastle standing on the table could appear to be somewhat of a miracle when seen superficially. This isn't a miracle at all though, there has been a lot of work done, and they appear to be reaping the benefits of their efforts right now. One could write down a list of things that Newcastle United has done differently. However, their success in the Premiership is not necessarily linked to what they have done differently, it is basically connected to the arrival of new, super rich Saudi owners. Just as things were beginning to go south for the club, some Saudi investors took over ownership. As much as football fans all over the world are interested in knowing what actually happened to this club and the financial details of the takeover, that's not what this video is all about. Well, after a takeover of this club by its new owners, a lot of money was invested into the club, and the newfound success that Newcastle is enjoying is a result of the amount that was pumped in. Newcastle United's success isn't just about splashing the cash on players, folks. Sure, they did buy some big names, but that's not the whole story. The club invested heavily in revamping everything from the ground up. And by everything, I mean even the training facilities got a facelift that would make a Hollywood starlet jealous. With so much dough in their pockets, they went ahead and built facilities that can rival some of the biggest clubs in Europe. And it's working, folks. The Magpies are on a roll. And it's not just because of the fancy new players, they've got the fancy new digs to match. Money and top-notch facilities are great, but they're not always enough to ensure a football club's success. Newcastle United learned this the hard way when they realised that their former manager couldn't get the job done, despite all the cash at their disposal. So, they showed him the door, and in came Eddie Howe. But not everyone was convinced he was the right man for the job. I mean, the man couldn't even save his former club, AFC Bournemouth, from relegation. It seemed like the Magpies were doomed, but the club's hierarchy had faith in him, and so far, he's proving them right. Maybe the secret to his success is just a really good hair day, who knows? On arriving at Newcastle United, Eddie Howe made some changes to a team's philosophy. He began by introducing a fresh tactical system that was focused on possession and rapid transition. The approach was good for the players, and shortly after, the results started coming in. Newcastle United started getting the results they wanted, not just because of a change in system, but also because of the arrival of new players. The Magpies brought in 5 new players for a combined fee of €135 million. The arrival of these new players did not get Newcastle United to the position that it currently enjoys. However, it went a long way in keeping the club far from the relegation zone. Beyond just getting free from the relegation zone, the Magpies finished 11th in the table. Finishing 11th in the table for a top team in Europe is bad. However, for a team that was a couple of matches from being relegated, it was quite an achievement. Newcastle United also knew that if they must challenge for a place in Europe, they would need to further strengthen their squad, and they wasted no time in doing this. They spent some more money in getting new players. Although the players they were able to get were top quality players, they even looked at some of the big names and almost successfully signed Brazilian superstar Neymar. Unlike other super rich clubs across Europe that seemed keen on signing big names, Eddie Howe and his team were more interested in signing the right players, even if they did not have any pedigree. The older players on the team have benefited from having a new coach and new teammates. and they are now able to perform much better than they did previously. Newcastle United might not have the best players in the league yet, however, they have got arguably the best defence in the league, and this is evident as they have not conceded as many goals as other top teams in the league. This improvement is quite obvious. Just last season they conceded over 60 goals. The improvement in Newcastle United's defence is one reason they are doing so well. However, there is a lot more to the overall improvement than just their defence. The present Newcastle United squad is not built around any player or even a set of players. This means an injury to a couple of players might not have a significant effect on the performance of the team. Additionally, the depth of this squad means an opponent will struggle to focus on a particular player. Eddie Howe, so far, has proven to be a good coach. However, the turnaround which Newcastle United is experiencing does not make him better than the coaches in charge of the more respected teams in the league. Newcastle presently does not play in Europe. This means their players do not have to play as much games as players in some other teams in the league. As much as having less to play for means there is less to be won, it also means they will not experience the same level of fatigue that other players have to deal with. While other teams in the league are busy with some games during the week, they are able to rest their legs to the weekend. Giving the league their entire focus has helped with Newcastle United's consistency this season. With this in mind, if they play in Europe next season, they might actually struggle to replicate the form that they are enjoying in the league presently. Lots of fans hope things never get bad. However, with their position on the table, they are almost certainly going to the Champions League. If they fail to make it to the Champions League, they will fall to Europa, which is even maybe much more stressing. Newcastle was doing so well before the World Cup came. As much as every player looks forward to compete at the World Cup, sometimes playing in the World Cup is not very good for top teams. Unfortunately for many top players at Newcastle United, and luckily for the club, a good number of the top players signed to Newcastle United did not make it to the World Cup. So, while other players that played a key role in the World Cup were recuperating, they didn't have to deal with fatigue and simply fired on all cylinders as soon as the league resumed. Newcastle United is having a great season, but let's be real. They're only doing well because the big teams like Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham are in a hot mess. How long do you reckon the Magpies can keep this up? Will they give the elite clubs a run for their money for a single season? Or will they stick around for a few more? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video to your friends and family. See you next time.